welcome to Lake Linganore at Eaglehead. For those of you who are not familiar, I'm Bob Kimball. I'm the general manager here at Lake Linganore Association. For anyone that needs to know, there's restrooms in the barn behind us if you have to use those. We are privileged tonight to be hosting the debate between Frederick County, for the Frederick County executive candidates, former Commissioner Jan Gardner and current Commissioner Blaine Young. I would like to thank all of you in attendance tonight at Lake Linganore. You may find it hard to hold your enthusiasm for a candidate, but nevertheless, I need to set some ground rules before we begin. Because we like to make this as beneficial and informative as possible for our residents, we ask that you hold applause during the questioning part of the debate. It is appropriate for applause after each candidate gives their opening and closing remarks. Disruptions or heckling will not be tolerated, and any disruptive individuals be asked to leave. Now it is my honor of presenting to you Ms. Jan Gardner and Mr. Blaine Young. Please join me in welcoming the two candidates to this debate. Our moderator this evening is Mr. Brandon Frazier. I will now be turning this over to Mr. Frazier, who will outline the process of the debate for those in attendance.
Okay, thank you all for coming.
Blaine goes first.
I'll go last. I'll take close last.
It does. I'll go last in the opening.
Okay, thank you all for coming. Just some ground rules for the debate. We're going to have, each candidate will have a 3-minute opening statement. Then we'll get into questions. We'll start and end with a couple of general questions, with each candidate getting 2 minutes for a response. Then we'll get into more detailed questions with a 2-minute response, a 2-minute rebuttal, and a 1-minute follow-up. Bob will monitor the time and signal to you all when time is running out. We just did the coin toss, and Bob, who's going to start?
Second, okay.
Are you up first, Blaine?
Yeah, I
Okay,
first open.
all right. So with that, we'll let Mr. Young get started with his opening statement. 3 minutes.
How many minutes? 3?
Three.
3? Oh, plenty of time. First of all, thank you all very much for coming out. There is nothing more discouraging than to participate in a forum or a debate that is not well attended. So you should be commended. Obviously, there's a lot of issues here. For the past 3 days, I've been here knocking on doors. I didn't realize I had to get a permit, but I did finally officially get the appropriate permit to make sure that I was within the rules and regulations. So some of you all have met at your door as I've knocked on it and introduced myself. And my message has been clear. This Board of County Commissioners has been a partner. It has not ignored Lake Linganore as it has been in the past by former boards of county commissioners. We've worked with the board, we've worked with the ECC to make sure every step along the way that everyone was working together to deal with much needed infrastructure improvements that have, again, in my opinion, long been overdue and long been ignored by previous boards of commissioners. I also did not know if those here was aware that on the November 6th meeting, I believe, of the Board of Commissioners, we'll be bringing forward an agreement to work with the board here on dredging the lake, which is very exciting and good news. We've got the city willing to step to the table. In other words, a 3-party agreement that's still being hashed out in the details. But the good news is here that the city of Frederick is going to come to the table. I specifically went to the mayor after some of your board members said, you know, if you really want to get some things moving, see if you can get the city of Frederick moving with a cooperative effort on dredging the lake that's long, long overdue. I went to the mayor of the city of Frederick, Randy McClement. Our departments started working together. They've agreed to pay for at least 50%. Obviously, it is their primary water source. For the county's perspective, this is one of our premier areas. So we want to step to the plate with a 25%. We're working out the details with the board with all the particulars of the last 25%. So there's a plan coming forward to dredge the lake. I thought most folks would be very excited about that. You know, we should be much farther along. We're 6 to 7 years behind where we should be, working out with the agreement that we finally put in place with the current developer, with the agreement with the DRRA. If you remember, there was a last board, there was a DRRA that fell short. Didn't happen. Everything went stale. Okay. There's been rumors of incorporation, which I don't think are needed, but I will support if that's what the majority of the residents here want and are willing to put it to the ballot. I think that those are only bubbling to the surfaces because, again, you're county taxpayers and you have been long ignored by the commissioners, and all I can tell you is I'm here to be your partner and keep moving forward. So thank you for having me.
Ms. Gardner, 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. It is a wonderful to see such a large crowd. And please let me know if you can't hear me, because I really can't tell if my microphone is working or not. So thank you for sponsoring this evening. I am Jan Gardner. Many of you likely remember me as a former county commissioner. I was a county commissioner from 1998 till 2010. I am running for county executive for a number of reasons: to restore trust in government, to make sure that we invest and have the best public schools we can possibly have, to manage growth responsibly, and to make sure we provide efficient and effective services while maintaining open and transparent government. So I have had a long-time relationship with the Lake Linganore community. They have always had issues that have been unique to this community than elsewhere in the county. And we have done a number of things. In my first term in 2000, we signed the first three-party agreement between the city of Frederick, Frederick County, and Lake Linganore, which was a water agreement, and it was fundamentally to maintain and repair the dams in Lake Linganore, which were under a consent decree at the time, and the community couldn't afford to maintain that infrastructure. So we stepped to the plate as the county and also the city of Frederick to help resolve that problem. In 2004, we signed the first Linganore source water agreement. We approved the CDA for the repair and upgrade of the roads and the stormwater that was associated with that. And we also introduced the Linganore Watershed Forest Conservation Easement Program, which was a program to buy forest easements along all the tributaries that feed into Lake Linganore to try to improve the water quality in the lake. So I think there have been longstanding partnerships between the county, the city, and the LLA board over the years, and we have appreciated that. One of the things I am most proud of was when I was first a commissioner here, the schools in the Newmarket region were severely overcrowded. Some of them were at 140 or 150%. And during my time, we built the Oakdale Elementary School, the Oakdale Middle School, in addition to the Newmarket Elementary School, the Newmarket Middle School, and most important, we built the Oakdale High School and immediately followed it with the Linganore High School. And the idea was to make sure that we would have adequate schools for this area of the county. It would accommodate growth in the county, but I wanted to make sure that our schools would not become overcrowded again. We did have a strong, adequate public facilities ordinance when I was in office to try to time the pace of residential development with our ability to provide those schools and roads. So I look forward to working with you again, and I appreciate you having this forum.
Okay, our first question is a general question. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. And we'll start with you, Mr. Young. What is the primary role of the county executive? And please explain why you are uniquely qualified for the position.
Managing the daily operations, managing the staff, and also managing the budget, which are all areas that I have extensive background in. I'm a small business owner. I've managed people. I own and operate a business. I have to obviously deal with the pressures of a payroll, deal with the pressures of paying the banks that I've borrowed money from for my business. So I'm a small business owner. I deal with the trials and tribulations of government every day and feel it every day, whether it's fees, whether it's taxes, whether it's regulations. I also just graduated from Mount St. Mary's with an MBA, so I'm continuing my education, as many of us have over the years. I've worked for major companies such as Clear Channel Communications, where I dealt with budgets and also dealt with forecasting and managing people. So the county executive is really going to manage the daily operations of Frederick County. I'm a hands-on person, but at the same time, I do not micromanage. You put good people in place, and you allow them to run their departments. So, that is my philosophy when it comes to managing people. I work well with others in terms of the delegation. We'll go to Annapolis and seek money. I'm the only candidate that has any endorsements from the delegation, and there's 2 Democrats there, and today one of them endorsed me. So I have significant endorsements from the delegation. The other Democrat won't endorse at all. It just happened to be my father. So he'll stay out of this race. I've worked well with all the other counties across the state, starting with the Rural Counties Coalition, to deal with the excessive taxes and fees from the O'Malley administration. And of course, the dreaded rain tax, the only state in Maryland that has something like that called the rain tax, something that they want us to come up with $1.8 billion. So I'm well-versed in state issues, well-versed in county issues as serving president. I've also served a term as an alderman in the city of Frederick and have an overwhelming endorsement of our municipal leaders that were also treated very unfairly by previous boards.
Mrs. Gardner?
Again, good evening. The primary role of the county executive is to manage the county. The county executive will hire all the division directors, which will need to be confirmed by the council. They'll appoint all the members of the county boards and commissions, again with the confirmation of the council. They'll present the budget. It has a very strong budget authority. The council can only subtract from the budget. They can't add to the budget. So it's a very, very strong financial control over the county. And they're required to present a state of the county or an annual report for the county every year. I think what is important in this race is that your first county executive is going to set the tone for how the county executive will function in Frederick County, because most of what's in the charter is undefined. The county executive will have to develop a governing consensus with the county council and also with the Board of Education, our state delegation, and all of our other partners. I bring experience to the table. I have a bachelor's degree in finance and economics. I have a MBA, and I work for a Fortune 100 company, the Quaker Oats Company. I have plenty of management experience. I have 12 years experience in county government, and I also served in 2007 as the president of the Maryland Association of Counties. I know how to work in Annapolis to get things done for Frederick County government. I also know most of the members of our federal delegation on a first-name basis. I believe I am uniquely qualified to represent this county professionally and well outside the county to make sure we have a seat at the table to obtain the funding we need for infrastructure and services from our state and federal government. And that's not just for schools and for roads, but also for things like public safety, homeland security, and services that our seniors need, and we certainly have a growing senior population. So I believe that I am uniquely qualified to represent this county. I have a vision for where I want the county to go, and I pledge to have open and transparent government.
Thank you. Okay. We're going
Those of you
to,
that weren't here when I announced it earlier, we're going to hold all applause. We don't want to take an applause in between the questioning period. The applause will come at the end when the candidates are given their closing response, but do not applause during the question portion of this.
Okay. We're going to get into some school questions. We'll start this with Mrs. Gardner. Many of our schools are at or above 100% capacity. Please explain when and how this problem began, outline what you've done while in office to address the issue, and what plans are in place or that you might put in place to accommodate students from newly approved developments.
Okay, one of the reasons I ran for office initially in 1998 was because my children were attending schools that were surrounded by portables. And I was a relentless advocate for my children's education, and I will be a relentless advocate for your children's education as well. So when I came into office, schools system-wide were at 102% of capacity, meaning, by definition, that half of our schools were overcrowded, some of them severely overcrowded. We developed a partnership with our Board of Education and established a goal to reduce schools to 90% system-wide, which at the time most people thought would never be accomplished. So how did we do that? We built a record number of schools from 2000 till 2010. In 1 year, we actually built 5 schools projects at the same time. And we did that by leveraging the money we had from impact fees and using bond anticipation notes to advance school construction. We also dedicated 5% of our recordation tax to build schools, and we really put a plan in place. So when I left county government, we had achieved that goal, and we were at 89% of capacity. We also put in place a strong, adequate public facilities ordinance that defined school adequacy as 100%. And we required development, if a project was projected to go over 100%, to either wait till the county could provide the school or to provide the funding to build the schools or school additions. Since I've left office, the current administration has come up with a school mitigation fee. This allows development to proceed until schools are at 120% of capacity if an additional fee is paid. That fee, however, is inadequate to provide the funding needed to build the schools that we need. I call that recreating school overcrowding on the installment plan. It really hasn't happened yet. In the last few years, we've seen school enrollment fall, so that school capacity has actually gone down to 88%, but we know we have a plan in place to re-overcrowd our schools, and I want to reinstitute some of the laws that were in place when I was in office.
Thank you. Mr. Young, your response, 2 minutes.
Well, we have a plan to make sure it stays under 90%. You just heard the current school capacity is at 88%, 1% lower. This Board of Commissioners has actually built and approved less building permits than the previous board. So the fact is, politicians do not build homes. It's the economy. Why have people come forward and ask for a 20 or 25-year DRA? Well, I'll tell you, because if you remember late Commissioner, God rest his soul, Mike Cady, he's the one who really brokered the deal to get the high school site donated in 2003. And what was the reward for that? Well, a downzoning of 900 acres that really stifled the Lake Linganore area. Where are we currently sitting at with high schools? We've invested a lot of money in high schools. Oakdale High School currently sits at 78%. Linganore currently sits at 88%. Now the middle school, yeah, there's a problem there. Oakdale is at 107, and it has a 300 seat expansion ready to go. But if you look in the area, Thomas Johnson Middle School is now at 61%, and Newmarket Middle School is at 58%. This is all about Board of Education redistricting. The county commissioners have no say in that. We moved up many projects. We just built a brand new North Frederick Elementary that has capacity. Lincoln Elementary has capacity. I'm getting blamed for Hillcrest Elementary. I was a junior in high school when my mother opened that school with 3 portables. That was poor planning. I was in high school. When I took office, Urbana Elementary was overcrowded. I wasn't anywhere around. But we put together solutions. We moved up North Frederick to get that built. I worked with the mayor to get an elementary school site to make that a reality. We've put a elementary school site in the 6-year CIP here in Newmarket, working with this area to make that a reality, because that's where our real problem is. And we've also moved forward with an addition on Urbana Middle, and also going to have a brand new Urbana Elementary in the next 2 or 3 years. So we have a plan in place.
Thank you. Mrs. Gardner, you'll have 1 minute for a follow-up.
To respond to the same question?
Yes.
Rebuttal, so to
Thank
speak?
you very much.
Okay. Well, I will say that the Oakdale sites were all purchased by the county. They were not donated to the county. The county has had a long-standing zoning ordinance which requires developers to contribute school sites. That actually has been removed from the zoning ordinance over the last 4 years. And the school site in the city that is referenced was actually acquired during my time in office. So school overcrowding is very difficult. We do have to work with the Board of Ed on redistricting, but I do think we have to have a strong, adequate public facilities ordinance in place and define schools once again as being overcrowded when they're above 100% of capacity, not at 120% of capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question, we will start with Mr. Young. 2-minute response, followed by a 2-minute follow-up, and then a 1-minute rebuttal again. What is MOE, and under what circumstances would you, as county executive, support increasing it?
MOE is maintenance of effort. It's something you'll hear about a lot. It's not getting the same money as you did the year before. The actual MOE, maintenance of effort, has grown by $11 million under our 4-year term. Okay? It's a calculation that is used by the state that tells us what the minimum is that we have to give the school system. Unfortunately, we are in very difficult economic times. These are reoccurring costs, by the way. So if your MOE is $1 million and you decide you want to give them $1 million plus an extra $100,000, that is your new MOE number, regardless of what the state calculation is. So you got to be very, very careful that you don't put yourself in a position where you can't, you know, it's like a house payment or car payment. It's there forever. It's never going to end with MOE. It's not like it goes away in 20 or 30 years. So maintenance of effort is an allocation that we must give to school systems. We have given them that allocation and given them an additional $5.7 million above maintenance of effort, outside of maintenance of effort, for things like technology. We gave 4.7, which made all of our schools wireless, which they are now rolling out. I'm not opposed working together with the Board of Education to go above maintenance of effort when it's realistic. They presented us a budget of $34 million, $17 million of it above maintenance of effort. That was not realistic in this budget. I did look at starting teachers' pay and say that's about $500,000, and we can raise MOE, and let's raise our starting teacher pay because it's one of the lowest in the state. So we can find areas that we can cooperatively work together. But at the end of the day, I'm here to watch your tax dollars. You get your tax bill and you can see it's 50% when you add up the general allocation. When you look at that debt service on your tax bill, half of that goes towards schools. And then there's all kinds of in-kind services that are provided. I see the sheriff here tonight, Sheriff Jenkins, and also Department of Fire and Rescue that provide the school systems too. So there's some in-kind services that go, but maintenance of effort is a calculation that the state comes up with.
Thank you. Mrs. Gardner, 2 minutes.
Okay, maintenance of effort is the minimum level required by the state that the counties must fund education. It's based on, basically you have to fund the same amount of money per pupil as the year before. So sometimes the amount you have to fund goes up because your student enrollment goes up. It just means flat funding based on the number of students. So we have funded for the last 4 years, actually last 6 years, at the minimum level required by law. This was acceptable when revenues were falling. It was a safeguard for the fact that you couldn't really cut education. But in the last 4 years, we've seen budgets go up every year, and funding for education did not go up every year. We've seen education be a smaller percentage of the budget year to year to year over the last few years. So what do we need to do? We need to change our priorities. We need to make sure that we stop subsidizing residential development, which I don't think we need to do, and direct that money into public education. I think we need to review all the privatization that has been put in place by this board that is costing us more money. A good example is the nursing homes that you've heard about with Citizens in Montague. We now have a private company called Aurora managing Citizens in Montague. We're spending $7.3 million in this fiscal year to Aurora Holding. when the county budget was $2.9 million to do the same thing. We're spending $4.4 million more in tax dollars to have privatized it. There are many more examples like that. So I think as the budget grows, we should make sure that half of that new revenue goes to education. It should be a priority in our budget, and we need to make sure that we have a working partnership with our Board of Education that they can depend on. It should be data-driven, it should be outcome-based. What outcomes do we want for our students, and how are we going to get there over the next 4 years?
Thank you. Mr. Young, 1 minute.
I think we have an outstanding education system. My kids are in it. It's number one. We spend $12,500 per year on a child's education. By the way, I support school choice. If any of you homeschoolers are out there or you send your kids to private school, you should get some type of tax credit. It's wrong. So I just want to let you know that I support school choice. Also, at the public hearing, my opponent said that she supports the Board of Education's budget. Well, it's $34 million more, 17 above maintenance Frederick. You have a right to know specifically where that money is coming from. Lay out the plan, because what I see is higher taxes and fees coming. And I can tell you right now, I have no clue of where you get that money. And that was a testimony that you gave at the Board of Education meeting when you said our budget meeting when you supported their budget. Nursing home, we're spending $10 million over 4 years to get out of a business the government should not be in. It's like Obamacare. We should not be in the healthcare business. We've lost $50 million since the year 2000, and we built a $38 million facility with no independent financial analysis.
Thank you.
It's a bad deal.
Okay, we're going to jump to some Lake Linganore questions, and we'll start this round with Mrs. Gardner.
Okay.
As was mentioned, a committee of the LLA has been studying the feasibility and the process for municipal incorporation. Incorporation may offer several advantages over our existing structure while allowing us to keep some or most amenities private. Two key milestones in this process will be a vote by the affected residents and the drafting of a charter. As county executive, and we understand this is more of a council issue, but as county executive, will you support these efforts? And should our residents elect to do so, will you assist the community in obtaining county council approval for our incorporation?
If the community decides, the majority of the residents that live here decide after weighing the advantages and disadvantages of incorporation that they want to incorporate, I'll support that. I think it should be up to the people who live here to decide if that is in their best interest or not. And there are advantages to it. I mean, you will qualify for a portion of the county income taxes. You'll qualify for state highway user revenue from the state. You'll also have some higher expenses that you'll have to deal with. You'll have to have a mayor and a council and a planning commission and some other things. So there'll be expenses associated with it too. Lake Linganore is an unusually large community to be managed by an HOA, and you have a lot of infrastructure to be managed by an HOA with a lake, the dams, private roads here. So I think it is up to the community to decide what you want to do, but I think everybody should inform themselves on what the advantages and disadvantages of that are.
Thank you. Mr. Young, 2 minutes.
Yes, you have my word. I'm a former municipal leader. If that is what the folks here want, it should be put on the ballot and the folks can vote on it. And I can promise you either way that you have my word that we'll continue to work with you as a county government, as your first county executive, whether you're incorporated or unincorporated. When I took over, we had some of the worst municipal relations in the history of Frederick County. We had the municipalities suing the county, arguing with the county over the fact that we were ramming legislation down their throat and trying to enforce things that were out of their purview. We also were nickeling, diming them deaf, charging them $1 to send out their tax bills. We've restored those municipal relations, and whether you're incorporated or not incorporated, you have my word that I'll continue to keep working with you all to keep moving things forward, that I know a lot of you all are frustrated that have been stagnant for a long, long time. So I look very much forward to working with you.
Thank you. 1 minute follow-up.
Okay. I just want to clarify that I've had good working relationships with the municipal officials over the 12 years I was in office, and I do enjoy the support of about half of the municipal officials that are out there today. So we've had good working relationships. We do have monthly meetings with our municipalities. I will certainly continue that, and I do think that we can continue to have a good working relationship with the board of the Lake Linganore Association as well, whether you decide to incorporate or not.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with you, Mrs. Gardner. Multiple developer bankruptcies and county land use policy shifts have wreaked havoc on our community's long-term planning efforts. Today, the completion of Lake Linganore is well-defined with a viable development partner, with the scope reduced from about 10,000 units to about 7,800 units overall. The LLA and Oakdale Investments have signed an MOU that addresses responsible buffers and preservation of lakeshore areas, many new amenities and open space, with the contribution of approximately $15 million to the community. Will you, as county executive, take any steps directly or by encouraging the council to stop the presently defined build-out of the Lake Linganore community?
To the extent that you have a DRA that defines how the community will develop, it's a contract. I've always honored the contracts that the county has had with really anybody. And I do think that the DRA that was developed during my last term in office between 2006 and 2010 was a superior document. It did preserve more areas, more wooded areas in Lake Linganore, and would have permanently put them in preservation. But that Development Rights and Responsibilities Agreement did not pass. I voted for it, but the majority voted against it. So it didn't move forward. It really concentrated the development in the town center, and it did put together a plan where the developer contributed to regional roads as well as regional schools to make that happen. So I look forward to working with the community and with the developer to make sure that Linganore develops well. I do hope that we can, we did have a stream and water body setback that was there that has been reduced by the current board. Commissioner Young did vote against it, as he'll probably note. But the previous law still does apply here in Lake Linganore because it was changed after the DRA was signed. So I do think we have tools to make sure in our planning process that we protect the environment here that is very important to the residents of this community. And I really do want to make sure that we have the schools and the roads and the public safety services that we need in this community as it grows. I am concerned with the financing mechanism for the Meadow Road interchange, that it does use future property taxes from the future development, and that will make less property taxes available to support the services that the new residents will need, like teachers and fire and police. And so I think there are challenges that will be set up because of the DRA and the financing mechanisms that will be put in place. But because of my knowledge and expertise, I think we'll be able to work our way through those.
Thank you. Mr. Young, 2 minutes.
I'm perplexed because I keep hearing that residential growth doesn't pay for itself, and I keep hearing about developer giveaways, but now it's a good deal. So, I mean, I don't,
No.
I mean, when you all keep hearing about this figure of 160 million, she's talking about part of it's you all. It's the DRA that we put in place. So obviously it must be a pretty good contract. The shame was the previous contract was a better contract, and it was, and I know that. But the Board of Commissioners couldn't get it done. And what did they do to thank everyone? Downzone properties and create another bankruptcy that stifled everything that was long overdue. And all you all had your blood, sweat, and tears worked in moving that forward. You know, we have something now that's in place that's predictable, that gives not the county government so much, you all predictability. That's what a DRA is about, development, rights, and responsibilities. They have rights, but they have responsibilities. If they don't fulfill those responsibilities, then they lose their rights. They stop dead in their tracks. And another thing you learned tonight, the stream buffers are protected because you heard about how they've been reduced. Under that current agreement that's in place, It is under the old law, which means that they are protected. So you've heard that. I've also heard about the Meadow Road interchange. I've heard my opponent stated that the solution would be either have the developer pay for the ramps or to include them in the county CIP project. There's 12 years. Why didn't the previous county government put that project in the CIP and move it forward? So we need to realize that the times that we're in, there are certain developers that are part of the solution, there are certain developers that are part of the problem. The developer that you have here is part of the solution, and I think that they've proven that. They've been working with you all cooperatively every step of the way.
I get another minute?
Mrs. Gardner, 1 minute.
Yeah, well, Commissioner Young misrepresented entirely what I said to you. The current DRA signed by the Young Board is not as good as the DRA that would have hopefully have passed by the prior board. It didn't pass. I voted for it, it didn't pass. And you know, we live in representative government, so we honor what the majority wants to do. What I'm opposed to is that the DRA will allow schools to be overcrowded again in this region. That makes me actually utterly dismayed and disheartened and sad. And I'm going to try to work to make sure that doesn't happen for the citizens here. I'm opposed to the financing mechanism for the rest of the Meadow Road interchange. It takes future property taxes that should go into the county budget to pay for education, for public safety, for road maintenance. It takes it and allows the developer to use that to build that interchange. And I think that is the most costly way to build that for the taxpayers of Frederick County. My job as county executive and as a county official has always been to protect the taxpayers, and that's what I plan to do.
Thank you. Another Lake Linganore question. We'll start this with Mr. Young. The LLA and its residents have shown leadership and made significant investments to improve and maintain stormwater management, enact better standards for builders and developers. We've developed plans for dredging and fostered partnerships with professional experts on water quality, siltation, and other environmental issues. What will you do as county executive to ensure that growth in the Linganore watershed does not further harm water quality in Lake Linganore? 2 minutes.
And I tell you, first, I'm still perplexed about the previous question, because I keep hearing about residential development doesn't pay for itself, and that there's this big developer giveaway going on here. Now, I cannot believe that your association and the ECC and over 450 people that emailed the Board of County Commissioners that said, please move forward with this agreement that you have in front of you. We listened to the residents that were here, that came out to those public hearings, that emailed the commissioners and said, please move forward with this. We need to get our infrastructure underway. So I just want to point that out. In terms of the stormwater, you know, I'm going to abide by all the rules, the regulations that are on the books, but more importantly, I'm going to depend on the residents here and working with the association and the ECC and those that are here to make sure that that what we have, the gym that we have here, is protected. And that is why before we leave office, this Board of Commissioners leaves office, I'm hoping that we can have some type of memorandum of understanding in place with the board and the city of Frederick to dredge the lake here. And
what about growth outside the community?
Well, there's only one growth project that's close to this, and that's Blaine, and that's what we should really talk about. And I'm opposed to Blaine, and we'll hear that at some point. You have my word, whether I'm elected or not elected, that we had to get some growth going to get the economy going. Unemployment's down from 6.9% to 5.6%. We've created over 2,000 new jobs by creating a good business-friendly environment, not by trying to pay a company like Bechtel $10 million to stay. That just proves no matter how much you pay somebody, they won't stay if you don't work with them. You know, we've got the best bond ratings in the history of Frederick County, 2 AAAs. And we did that in a bad economy. The first AAA was earned in a great economy. And we were just ranked as one of the best counties in the United States of America. That didn't happen by accident. That happened with your help.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mrs. Gardner, 2 minutes.
I'm going to try to get back to the actual question, which was about water quality and stormwater management. I think we need to make sure we enforce our stormwater management laws. One of the challenges when you put the DRA in place is it freezes the laws in place. That certainly gives the developers certainty, but it's unclear if we have new stormwater methods and methodologies that they will have to be implemented as this development proceeds. I'm glad to hear that the commissioner opposes the Linganore development. I wish he would have opposed the Casey development as well. We really need to phase development. If you want to support Lake Linganore being completed first, I think we should have phased it so that Lake Linganore was done without some of the other development in the surrounding area, which is going to overwhelm the schools and the roads and all the infrastructure that's here. So I want to make sure that we keep our water clean, that we reduce the nitrogen and phosphorus into our waterways, and that we make those laws apply to all the surrounding developments as well as within Lake Linganore itself. And I think that's all I'll say on the stormwater management.
Thank you. Mr. Young, you have 1 minute to follow up.
Well, you know, I am concerned a little bit by the science because it is the science of Martin O'Malley, and this is part of what we're talking about with the rain tax. And you all should not have to foot the bill with what the Susquehanna River does in the Conowingo Dam. So when we look at stormwater, when we look at what truly pollutes our waterways and pollutes the bay, you should only have to pay or have to assist in cleaning up for the damage you do. You know, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New York, you know, those states don't have a rain tax. Why are we the only state that has a rain tax? How do you get tax rain? So we'll continue to work with it. We're members of the Clean Chesapeake Coalition, and we're also looking at alternative ways to make sure that we continue to provide healthy, clean drinking water.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment to that? You don't have to. I'll try to answer.
5 seconds.
I just want to say that the 6 states that feed into the Chesapeake Bay watershed all have a federal mandate to reduce nitrogen and phosphorus. So they all are required to pay their fair share.
Next round of questions, again on Lake Linganore. We'll start with you, Mrs. Gardner. The LLA owns and maintains a substantial road network subject to public access easements, and for many years we received SURE funds to assist with annual road maintenance. What will you or what can you do as county executive to return our fair share of state highway user revenues to the county and to Lake Linganore? And will you guarantee our Lake Linganore's previous SURE fund distribution?
Well, when I was in office, state highway user revenue, which is called SURE funding, is our share of the gas tax. And it used to be that counties received a share of the gas tax based on the number of vehicles they had registered in their jurisdiction, as well as the number of road miles that they had in their jurisdiction. And all the municipalities received a share of that based on this formula. And when I was in office, we did support state legislation that would give Lake Linganore a share of the state highway user revenue, much like it would a municipality. So I supported it then, and I'll certainly continue to support that. During the height of the recession in 2009, the state decided to balance its budget by keeping 96% of the share of the highway user revenue that went to all the counties and municipalities. So for Frederick County government, that was a $13.5 million cut, and for our municipalities, it was about a $5 million cut. I believe very strongly that we should advocate to get that money back, because it was very significant in our budget to maintaining our roads, to doing snow removal, and I think it's important to your community to have that stream of funding to maintain your roads. So certainly as county executive, I will advocate with our state legislature to make sure that that money is phased back to us as the economy recovers and the state has money, because it really is important to county and municipal governments across the state. I was the president of the Maryland Association of Counties in 2007. I do know how to advocate for these things. I do think instead of having all these rural coalitions that have split off, I think it's important for us to stand together as counties, because we have strength when we stand together as counties to lobby for these things together. So the Maryland Association of Counties, the Maryland Municipal League, will, I believe, continue to advocate for restoration of those funds.
Thank you. Mr. Young, 2 minutes.
Well, I can tell you the first thing we can do is elect Larry Hogan governor. He knows where Frederick is, not Frederick Town. So Larry Hogan knows where Frederick is. He's been here. He's going to be here with me Monday. He's ensured that if he is elected, he will return the highway user money, and he will work with me to fix many of our roadways, such as Route 75. Part of what I have with the O'Malley-Brown philosophy is they take half your gas tax and they use it for things like the Purple Line, okay? You want your roads fixed. You don't care about a mass transit project in another jurisdiction that you're not going to be in and you're not going to use, okay? So again, when that leadership changes at the top with Larry Hogan as governor, those calculations will change. I will work again with the association here, and I have a wonderful working relationship with our next senator, which will be Mike Huff, and our delegates, Kathy Abzali, Kelly Schultz, who you know very, very well, who does an excellent job, and David Boat. So they've all endorsed me. We've got a wonderful working relationship, and we will fight hard to get that highway user money restored. We won't have to fight that hard if Larry Hogan's elected. And then once it's restored, we will sit down and make sure, whether or not it's dealing with the association or municipality at that time, that you get the fair share of what should be coming to you, okay? To sit down at the table, collaboratively, cooperatively, of making sure what that calculation is and making sure that, that you get that money.
Thank you. Mrs. Gardner, 1 minute follow-up.
Okay, the state highway user revenue cut was cut by the state legislature, and unfortunately, many of the members of our own delegation voted to cut that funding to the county and the municipalities as a way of balancing the state budget. So I think it's a challenge that we have to debate with our delegation, and we need to continue to work with them to really make sure that our delegation and the state legislature understand how important that money is to all of us here in the county and municipal government. And I will note that Larry Hogan, Commissioner Young has said many times in public that Larry Hogan has committed to funding Maryland 75, which was a big issue in the rezoning of the Monrovia Town Center. And I did write him a letter and ask him if he had made that commitment, and he did issue a statement that really said he had not committed to funding the road. He would simply commit to working with the county in the future. So I think it's important to know that the state will probably not fund Maryland 75 in the near future.
Thank you. We have the option to break now, or we can continue with the questioning.
I think we should take a 15-minute break.
Okay.
To support the Boy Scouts.
Okay. Boy Scouts are over in the corner. We're going to take a 15-minute break. We do have some other candidates in attendance, so hopefully you get a chance to meet them. So, first question, we'll start off with Mr. Young. For those who may not understand, please explain what tax increment financing is, how it's being implemented in Frederick County, and what are the impacts on existing taxpayers? 2 minutes.
Better known as a TIF. And a TIF is a tool. I had the honor and privilege, and I say honor and privilege, to be part of voting for a TIF when I was an alderman. If most of you all are familiar with Monocacy Boulevard, it was property that sat there undeveloped. The developer was responsible for creating a bridge, building a bridge, which they could not do. The numbers did not work. Developer came forward and brought a company called CSR Hydro Conduit to the table, and through creating a TIF, we were able to build the bridge and build the road there at Monocacy Boulevard. It was all about economic development and job creation, which obviously you can see Wells Fargo, Audi Foods are over there, Frederick Brickworks, St. John's has multiple tenants. It's been an incredible economic engine for the city and the county. And by the way, we thought we had participation from the county at that time, but when the new board came in, they basically turned their back on the city and took back the little bit of funding they put in there. This board has committed $8 million to see the completion of Monocacy Boulevard with Mayor McClement, because it's about job creation. Now, two TIFs that you'll hear about, one is like Jefferson Tech Park, which is a TIF, okay? And that TIF costs about $3 million a year to pay. Now, what happens is whatever they're paying property taxes right now, they continue to pay for general fund. As those property taxes increase, they're allowed to use that first $3 million to pay that TIF, which is buying what? Purchasing what? What's the bond? Infrastructure. Infrastructure not only to create jobs. By the way, You heard me say that we wanted to pay Bechtel $10 million to stay. The TIF we put in place for Jefferson Tech Park will create 7 Bechtels, over 7,500 jobs there. So it's about job creation, but it's about building the infrastructure that's needed to be put in place. So there's also a TIF that's been put in place here for the same reasons, about the opportunities that it will create. And I'm not even talking about income tax we pay, but it's about infrastructure that we all will use.
Mrs. Gardner, 2 minutes.
Okay, did you get an understanding of what a TIF is from that conversation? Do you understand it?
Yes. No.
Okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a lot and it's worth $100,000 and you pay taxes at $100,000. Then you put a house on it and the house cost $100,000 and now you have a $200,000 property. The tax increment is the difference in the tax that you'd pay between the $100,000 and the $200,000. So that's the incremental tax you get from putting a house on it. So what a TIF does is it takes that incremental tax and it shifts it, instead of going into the county budget, it shifts it into a dedicated fund to pay for infrastructure that is needed to support the development. So is that good or bad? And the answer is, it depends. If you're getting a business to come here to create 500 jobs and you're giving them a percentage of that increment for 5 years or 10 years and you have an immediate benefit, it can be a good thing. We've done a $5 million TIF for the expansion at Metamune, which they ended up never using, but it was very small. Now we've had, under the Young administration, 2 TIFs approved for residential development. And the one for Lake Linganore, or for the new Oakdale section, I think is about 20% of the property taxes will go to support infrastructure. But in the Jefferson Tech Park, it's virtually all of the property taxes are going to support infrastructure, both internal to that development and external to that development. So what does that mean? It means for 20 years, the property tax from that neighborhood is going to go into a special fund. It's not going to be available to pay for needed teachers, needed police, needed fire, snow removal, road maintenance, senior services, whatever services that community of people that move in there will legitimately demand from county government. So this means that it undermines our budget and that the existing taxpayers are going to have to pay to support that.
Thank you.
I don't support TIFs for residential development.
Thank you. Mr. Young, you have 1 minute to follow up.
Well, you don't pay $100,000 in taxes on a $100,000 lot, or if you put $100,000 home, taxes don't work that way. You pay on assessed value, and with the assessment of your value, you all get reassessed every 3 years. That's how you pay your taxes. So as the Jefferson Tech Park moves forward, it'll create 7,288 jobs. The yearly average state revenue, just on, by the way, we haven't talked about income tax, and this is the big component. Over $24 million in income tax revenue from those jobs. By the way, think about all those cars we get off the road of people that want to work here and live here. There's a real value to that. We don't need to sit there and watch 50% of our full-time workforce continually go to find an appropriate wage. The average yearly county revenue off the property taxes, and this is after all the debt service is paid, is over $6 million, okay? So these TIFs are not going to subsidize anything. They're building much needed infrastructure. By the way, Jefferson Tech Park builds the infrastructure that's needed to complete the Metamune expansion as they're going to go forward, $3.6 million.
Thank you.
That's backlog that sits right there in front.
All right. Next question, we'll start with Mrs. Gardner, if I can find it. Back to Lake Linganore. The northeastern section of Lake Linganore has filled with sediment to the point that USGS omitted it from a 2009 survey.
They omitted it?
They omitted it. When surveying the lake, they included the lower half, but not the northeastern section above Boyers Mill Bridge. LLA surveys have also shown significant increases in sediment over the last several years. We've taken action here, but the LLA has good indications that substantial amounts of sediment are coming from upstream and outside the community. The Lake Linganore Association, Frederick County, and City are currently renegotiating the tri-party water agreement, as was mentioned before. The draft under consideration outlines, among other points, a maintenance cost sharing of 50% from the city and 25% each from the county and LLA. As county executive, will you support the execution of this three-way agreement and encourage the city of Frederick to do so?
So I'm first? Okay. I supported the original tri-party agreement to restore and maintain the dams, and I will certainly support the amended to a tri-party agreement to support the dredging. The county no longer draws water from Lake Linganore. It is a major source of water for the city of Frederick. At one time, it was a source of water for the county as well, but it is a backup source of water for us. I do think we have to do everything we can to reduce the sedimentation into our tributaries, into Linganore Creek, and into the waterways. It is, but I do think it's something that we should partner with LLA on. And Commissioner Young, I think earlier, said that he plans to sign that agreement in the next week or two, and if that is the case, that'll be done before I'm in office. But I do think we have to have partnerships with the community here to make sure we maintain our backup water supply, which, you know, Lake Linganore is really one of our only containment areas to hold water. It is our backup in case of a drought. And so I think it's important for us to be a partner in assuring that we have that water when we might need it in the future.
We pay for a water quality testing program. Would you help support that?
I would consider that, yes.
Okay. Mr. Young, 2 minutes.
Well, I haven't seen it, so.
Again, I learned of this when we dealt with DRAs and the other issues that came forward from one of your board members. I went to the mayor on this particular issue and went to Mike Marster, who used to be the director of Duswam Department of Utilities and Solid Waste Management, and said, let's try to get something moving quickly. We're going to present that next week. Of course, you know, there's some details that we still need to work out. I believe that I'm hoping that we're able to get that agreement done before we leave. If not, I pledge not to turn my back on you. If that agreement's not done, I pledge to you, if elected county executive, to make sure that agreement gets signed. And I pledge also to, again, work with you in any way, shape, or form, even with the water quality testing.
Ms. Gardner, 1 minute follow-up.
Yeah. I think there'll be a lot of details to be worked out. The biggest issue when you dredge is what you're going to do with the spoils that you take out of your water from the siltation. And so I don't know if there have been a location identified for that to go to, but there's a lot of complex permitting processes with dredging, and there are a lot of concerns with contamination in the silt. So it's not an easy process, and just because there's an agreement signed, actually making it happen is going to require some continued cooperation.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with directed to Mr. Young. You've been criticized for accepting bundled donations from commercial brokers and developers using the so-called LLC loophole, which is set to close after this election. How do you feel those contributions ultimately benefit local residents?
Well, I think that folks that know me know that if I tell you I'm going to do something, I do it. I answer questions where you clearly understand where I'm coming from and what I will do and will not do. So I always make my opinions, my stances of what I will do and not do crystal clear. I've had tremendous support by the business community every time I've ever ran for office. Even back when I was 26 years old and ran for alderman in the city of Frederick, I raised more money than anybody that's ever, to current date, has run for alderman. Same when I ran for commissioner. I raised the most money in the history ever of running for commissioner. I'm a businessman. I know a lot of folks that are in business. They're my friends. I associate with them. And they want to assist me in my endeavor of getting elected. By the way, they live here. Their children are here. Their friends are here. And they only want the best for our community. I have all sizes of donations, from the lowest amount, from $1 to $5. So you can get my report. It's all public, and I follow the letter of the law.
2 minutes.
Okay, there's an unprecedented amount of special interest money in this election. and there's an unprecedented total amount of money that is being spent. At the last reporting period, I believe Commissioner Young had raised about $800,000 for a position that pays $95,000. And at least $450,000 of that had come from developers who had business before the county. 2 developers have given him over 50, one over $100,000, just one person who owns multiple entities. It is legal. It is a loophole that the state is going to close. I think you have to really question what somebody wants when they are contributing $100,000 to a campaign. And again, it's legal, but it's a lot of money. There shouldn't be this much money in campaigns. There shouldn't be so much money that people have to question whether the decisions of county government are being made based on who the campaign contributions are coming from. About 5% or less of my money will come from development interest. Certainly some developers have and will contribute to me. Other business interests have also contributed to me. But 90% of my money comes from average people, hundreds of residents of Frederick County giving me $5, $25, $50, or $100. And I really think that it's important to engage the public and to make sure that you elect somebody who represents the common good of Frederick County. So I'd like to see our election laws changed to make the election cycle shorter and to limit the amount of money that can come from any one group of entities. They are trying to close that loophole. I don't think they closed it far enough. I think there's a way to get around it. And I just really don't think there should be this much money in elections, period.
Thank you. Mr. Young, 1 minute.
Again, you know exactly where my money comes from. There are no third-party groups. I mean, there's all these shell organizations going on with my opponent. You've got the teachers. I don't know how much they're dumping money into this election. The union with Mesa. You've got Rail, another organization. Republicans for Gardner. You've got, which but most of them never been Republican and have no voting history in any way, shape, or form. You've got several environmental organizations. You got some PAC called First Frederick or something that's dumped all kinds of money in TV and radio. So, you know, I don't have all these third-party organizations. And by the way, the contributor she's talking about is the #1 property taxpayer in all the entire county and creates a lot of jobs here in this county. So again, and why have they invested in me? Is because we've created a business-friendly environment. We've lowered unemployment, 2,000 new jobs, over 260 taxes and fees that we've reduced or eliminated or abolished. I put an ad in the paper so you could see each and every one of them. Actually, if you count them, there were 280 that were listed.
Thank you. Next question to you, Mrs. Gardner. Explain Maryland's so-called rain tax and whether you, as county executive, will go along with or oppose its expansion in Frederick County, keeping in mind that many Lake Linganore residents are already paying special taxes for improvements that filter runoff into the Chesapeake Bay watershed.
Okay, I first want to start out by saying the groups that Commissioner Young says support me, the teachers, they don't really give their candidates money, individual teachers may, but the organization doesn't. They do support us on the Apple ballot and with their general advertising. None of the environmental groups that support me have given me any money. Again, some of their members may. But none of these groups, they're all average citizens. They do not funnel any kind of large amounts of money into my campaign. The rain tax. What is the rain tax? The federal government mandated the 6 states that feed into the Chesapeake Bay reduce nitrogen and phosphorus pollution by certain percentages by a certain date. This has come down to the states to figure out how they're going to comply with this. And ultimately, each county gets a permit that ratchets up what we have to do to make sure we have clean drinking water and that we reduce stormwater runoff into the bay. Right now, the county is spending about $2.5 to $3 million to comply with the existing permit. The upcoming permit that is under negotiation right now is for $142 million over 5 years. That's $28 million to comply with. That's the size of our entire public works department. It's unaffordable to us and it's unaffordable to every other county. If we were to charge that out as a fee to every household, that fee would amount to between $450 and $500. So what do I want to do? I want to make sure that we have a seat at the table and discuss with MDE and the EPA other ways for us to comply with this that are cost efficient and effective. For instance, the Chesapeake Bay Commission just released a well-regarded study that says if we would allow nutrient trading between agricultural zones and urban zones, we could reduce the cost of compliance by 90%. So at this point, I'm not interested in increasing the fee that's known as the rain tax. But what you want to know is the fee is not the bigger issue. The entire mandate and the cost of it is the bigger issue. We need to have tools in our toolbox so that we can clean the water and do that effectively and efficiently and achieve the goal that we share. And I think it's not a good idea to just say we're going to sue the state, we're going to sue the federal government, we're going to sue, because that takes you away from that seat at the table where you negotiate this. The EPA is going to update their models that underlie this, and we need to have a seat at the table at that to make sure that the science and the assumptions in that model, which
Okay.
were done broadly for the watershed, really make sense on a municipal and county level. And I don't think I ran out of time, did I? Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
sorry, I did not hear
Sorry.
it. I apologize.
Mr. Young, 2 minutes.
Well, these third-party groups, by the way, don't give you the money to your campaign. They spend it on your behalf. So the teachers' union is spending an unprecedented amount of money in this election. You've already probably seen the developer pieces that they've sent out hitting the entire Republican ticket. Friends of Frederick has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, and no one knows where it's come from to file just all kinds of lawsuits against everything you can imagine. First Frederick PAC has spent plenty of money, and no one to this point knows where it's come from. This Who's the Truth organization that's running half-page ads. So you don't have to claim any of that on the campaign finance report. Everything that I'm spending is on my report. I don't need to hide behind third-party organizations to do dirty work and smear people. You know exactly where I stand and exactly where I get my money from.
To the rain tax.
is completely absurd. Who taxes rain? Only the state of Maryland, only Martin O'Malley. It's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. We set the fee at 1 cent, and I pledge to you right now, I will not raise that fee. That is wrong. We will challenge it. We've hired Funk and Bolton with multiple other counties to do the research. We hired the one law firm that won a case against the EPA, Google of Aqua Law in Fairfax, Virginia. This is another piece of that crazy stuff that Obama is pushing down from the EPA. Our governor is embracing it lock, stock, and barrel, where all the other states are fighting it and negotiating with the EPA. And you know, our state, they're sitting there embracing it, and we're getting hit worse than any other county in the state of Maryland, $1.8 billion. We thought it was $1.5 billion. And the state legislature said, no, it's only $200 million. We were both wrong. It's $1.8 billion. That's a yearly new fee tax to be implemented in its fullest extent that our governor wanted to do at $500 a year additional money you would pay, and it never ends.
Thank you. Mrs. Gardner, 1 minute follow-up, please.
Okay, what you need to know is the state of Maryland is negotiating it, does have a seat at the table with the EPA, and is very vested in making sure that we have a clean Chesapeake Bay. It's very important to the state of Maryland. It's very important to our watermen. It's very important to the industry that relies on the bay. And the people that aren't negotiating it are the people who have decided to lawyer up and to file lawsuits or move in that direction against the state and federal government. I think that's a waste of money. I really think it would be better if we would spend that money on trying to figure out how we can best comply with this law in a cost-efficient way. And nutrient trading is one of the great examples of how to do that. The poultry industry on the Eastern Shore is very affected by this. So what did they spend their money on? They spent their money having the University of Delaware do a study based on science to come up with options for them to comply with. And that is much more productive than just saying, I'm going to sue everybody.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Young. What will you do to ensure that longtime county residents can stay in their homes and retire here? For example, would you support exempting retired residents from school-related taxes, or what other plans might you have? 2 minutes.
I want to say on the Eastern Shore, the only thing that they did was fund the relocation from Purdue, because they left Maryland. That's what happened. That was almost called the chicken you-know-what tax down there. So believe me, if they could find a way, they would have taxed them. And that's what Purdue did, was say, see you later, goodbye, Maryland, another business going. In terms of what to do to make sure that this is a county where a young family can get started and not get started in a place like West Virginia or Pennsylvania, or even Washington County, where my brother got started now, is back in the middle age, can pay their bills, pay down debt, save for their children, and of course our seniors to retire with dignity. First and foremost, I wanted to expand the senior property tax credit, a real meaningful tax credit, not a lien against your home, which was previously in place. It was a deferral, wasn't a credit. We started the household income at $60,000, took it to $70,000. I like to take that all the way up to $100,000. Again, we need to look at all the taxes and fees that we put in place. Some of these residential units that we've approved, the impact fees, when you have schools, roads, water and sewer, they're paying $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 per unit. Okay, right now is the biggest opportunity to be able to buy affordable housing in Frederick County if you have money in the bank and the ability to get credit. There's a lot of homes in certain areas that you'd have to do a little fixing up, but that's what you have to do sometimes. So when you're in terms of looking at deferring taxes and things of that nature of those that have kids in school, I'm looking at not one sector. I want to lower taxes overall for everybody. But again, we need to look at our senior population, because they shouldn't choose between prescriptions and groceries, or whether or not they can pay the rent. And if they're here, they're good, because again, you see your tax bill, half of it goes to education. So we need to be the most senior-friendly county in the state of Maryland.
Thank you. Mrs. Gardner, 2 minutes.
Okay. So what should we do to make sure longtime residents can continue to afford to live here? Well, when I was a commissioner, we expanded the homeowners property tax credit. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a state program that provides on a sliding scale a property tax credit, which about 80% of the use of that is by senior citizens. And it can actually eliminate your entire property tax bill if you are a low-income senior without a lot of assets. And we expanded that under the idea that it would lower property taxes for everyone. Everyone could take advantage of that to the extent that they would qualify for it. So we expanded that so it was good for our seniors and also for others in our community who might need it. We also did a $100 property tax credit, and several years we did smaller property tax credits, and we did them as subtractions on the property tax bill rather than mailing you a check, because that was the cost-effective way to provide that. In talking with our state delegation, there is interest among some of our candidates running for office to introduce legislation to make retirement income from pensions exempt from income taxes. That would have to be state legislation that would pass. That's not something we could do on the county level. So I think that's something that's going to be discussed, and it is something that's available to people who live nearby in Pennsylvania. There's property tax credits out there now, but not everybody owns a property. So there's also another candidate running, Carol Krim, who plans to propose a property tax credit for seniors who are in rental property. And that tax credit would go to the owner, the landlord of that property, but it would have to pass through to the benefit of that renter. Because we do have a lot of people who are in rental property. Not everybody owns a home. That was quick.
Thank you. Mr. Young, 1 minute follow-up.
Again, we've lowered taxes and fees 260 times. We even sent back a $100 rebate check. It's your money. We gave it back to you. Again, we just adopted the constant yield. So we're making sure that we're being very prudent of watching every nickel, dime, and penny that is spent. I do want to look at an opportunity for a military tax credit. I very much value those that have served our country and those that are currently serving our country, and we do need to find ways to help them in terms of looking at this. I know one was proposed in the past from former Commissioner, rest his soul, Michael Cady, So I think that needs to be re-examined also. And again, I'm familiar with the tax credit for seniors that rent. I support that. We've already told our agency to start looking at that. Carroll Prim is in the city, and the city at any time they like, they could adopt the senior property tax credit today because they have the authority under their charter, and some municipalities already have.
Thank you. Okay, we're running a little short on time, so I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to give you each 1 minute to give us a quick pitch on your views on waste to energy and overall county waste disposal. 1 minute each, please. And we'll start with Mrs. Gardner.
Okay, I think the waste to energy project is dead. We no longer have a partner. Carroll County pulled out, and even if they had not pulled out, the financials have changed significantly, where the cost of waste to energy is literally twice as much as the cost to take our waste to out-of-state landfills. I think we need to start over again with a stakeholder committee to evaluate all of our options for our long-term disposal for our waste. I think we have to continue to increase our recycling, look at composting for our food vendors, and make sure that we expand business recycling. We used to have a person who was in a position to look to help and assist with business recycling. Actually, waste from our businesses is about half of our waste stream, so that's important. That position went vacant and was not refilled, so I think we have to refill that position so that we can reduce that. And the most important thing that I think is going to happen is we're going to see a lot of public policy changes in the waste stream. We're going to see mandates for more recycling, mandates for more composting, and we're going to potentially see certain things subsidized. So we need to stay flexible and not engage in something that commits us long-term to anything right now. So we have that flexibility.
Mr. Young, your views on waste to energy and waste disposal.
But then my grandfather always told me we'd be talking trash, talking about water, and talking about energy, and that's the three huge issues going forward. Frederick County does not need another landfill. I think we all agree on that. In terms of the waste to energy project, I never liked the location. My name's not on the contract. That was the previous board. I made a motion for us to terminate the contract and terminate the permits. It did not get full support of the board. It was actually 2-2, and Commissioner Gray was the undecided person. The financials do not work. We do not have a viable partner anywhere in sight, and we sent out an RFP that will enable us to enter into a short-term contract that can be extended up to 25 years with a landfill in the region. We need to have something in place so we're not pressured. In other words, having a short-term contract without an extension puts too much pressure where people are trying to find a quick solution. Because as we know, technology develops over time. Whether you buy a phone or a laptop, and you will see technology with disposable waste change with time and change quickly as they're developed.
Thank you. Now to our final question before closing statements. This will be a 2 minute, 2 minutes each, no rebuttal. Effectively giving you a 5 minute closing statement, I guess. The final question, starting with, who's the lucky person? Mr. Young. Given the tone and level of negative advertising both campaigns have reached, what steps would you take to heal the divide within the county after the election? 2 minutes.
Well, this is a question I addressed at a debate we had at Rotary. And I just went through the program at Mount St. Mary's and getting my master's in 1 year. And I did not believe I'd be sitting here running for county executive. And one of the things that I have learned is to slow down. I'm ADD, ADHD. I sleep about 4 hours a day. I get up about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. I work all the way till midnight. And a lot of times when folks have me ask a question, I want to give the answer. I want to give them what they need, and I want to move on. But I'm not really slowing down enough to make sure that I communicate and articulate, and make sure that I give them enough time that they need to make sure that they feel that their questions were answered. So once elected, again, we need to continue to move Frederick County forward. I would be willing to sit down with anyone at any time, as I am now. I always give out my phone number, 301-748-3218. I tell folks, call me. We can meet for a cup of coffee. people aren't always going to agree. And that's what's wrong with Washington, and it's what's wrong with the government is, see, it becomes so angry, so nasty, that at the end of the day, you can't sit down at your kids' game and cheer together, or sit somewhere and have a drink and watch a ball game together. We all want the same thing. We want Frederick County to be the best it can be. I want that. My opponent wants that. And at the end of the day, we need to set aside the differences and work together in making sure that is ensured. We all have different paths, but our end goal is the same. We want the best community we can. We want the best park system, the best school system. We want to help our sheriff to make sure that the crime rate is low. We want to make sure that there's opportunity and jobs and opportunities for our young folks to be able to live here and work here, and make sure our seniors can retire with dignity. We all want the same thing. At the end of the day, we need to sit down and really just relax, take a deep breath, and have a conversation.
Thank you. I should say I stole that question from Richard Weldon.
Oh, did you?
Mrs. Gardner, 2 minutes.
Okay, I think it's unfortunate the amount of negative campaigning and attack ads we've seen in this campaign. I have certainly sent out some pieces that have been hard-hitting and compare and contrast. But all of my pieces feature me and what I want to do for this county. Many of the attack ads against me that have been put out by my opponent are just about me. They never mention him. And you've been told over and over again that I raised my salary by 50%, something I had no power to do as a commissioner. Only the state legislature can raise the county commissioner's pay. You've been told I've gone on junkets where my whole entire expense account and the expense account of some other people were thrown together to come up with that. I've been portrayed as Frankenstein in a recent ad, and it's just been a series of one negative ad after another. It's just been unbelievable. I've been told that I've brought Obamacare, everything else. I will just rise above all of that, because you need a professional person to be your county executive. You need someone you can trust, someone who will tell you the truth, and someone who will tell you what they are going to do when they are in office. I served this county for 3 terms. With different people on the board, with different opinions. And on a personal level, I got along with all of them. I'm still friends with all of them. Most of them have endorsed me in this campaign because they know that I will hear all the opinions. I'll try to balance legitimate competing needs and interests, and I will still like them at the end of the day. You know, you cast a vote and you go on to the next thing, you cast another vote, you go on to the next thing. So I want to make sure that we have a governing consensus among the county executive and our council members. I want to make sure we have a governing consensus between the county and our Board of Education and our municipalities. And I am adamantly opposed to attack ads. Thank you very much for your attention.
And now we move to closing statements. By coin toss, Mrs. Gardner will go first with a 3 minutes, so wrap it up for 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for having us this evening. This actually is the largest crowd we've had for a candidate debate. And I really appreciate your interest and you coming out here to listen to us. I think it's instructive to you, and I'm glad that you're interested voters. I am running for county executive because I want to make sure Frederick County remains the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And I'm fighting for the things that we love and cherish about our community. Personally, I invested 12 years in this county, serving as a county commissioner. I care about it deeply. Frederick County is my home, and I consider Frederick County my family. Over the last 4 years, I've watched with dismay as a number of things have happened in this county. Whether it was from privatization, where many county employees, 700 county employees have lost their job to privatization. Privatization is costing the taxpayers more. So you hear that we have fewer county employees and smaller government, but we have a higher budget. We've dumped Head Start. We've zeroed out our long-standing partnerships with our nonprofit human service agencies. Schools have been funded at the bare minimum required by law for 4 years, which puts our great school system at risk. We can't see that happen again. Our adequate public facilities ordinance at times growth with our ability to provide schools and roads have been gutted. We have seen over 10,000 houses approved on the east side of Frederick County in Newmarket and down through Monrovia without an adequate plan in place to provide for roads and schools. We've seen the ethics laws repealed, and we've seen many dedicated, trusted county employees and citizens coming in to participate in the public process treated in a disrespectful manner. As someone who got involved in this as a citizen, I think it's really important that citizens are empowered to come in and say whatever they want. I have two guiding principles. You have a right to know what your government is doing. Your government is you. And citizens have a right to have their voices heard. So I am running against an unprecedented amount of money, probably $1 million, and against an unprecedented amount of special interest money, and really an attack ad on me personally and professionally. But I am going to stand strong and fight for the things I care about in Frederick County. I care about honest government. I care about open government. I want to manage growth responsibly. I want us to have the best schools we can have. It's important for our children, our families, and our future economic development. I want to make sure we treat people fairly and respectfully. And so I ask you to stand with me and to vote for me on November 4th to restore good government to Frederick County. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming, Mr. Young. Your closing statement, please.
I got involved as a citizen, parent, business owner that was tired of all the taxes and fees and seeing our county government balloon to the largest in history with over 2,650 budgeted full-time employees, a $524 million budget in 2004. Today our budget is $525 million, only $1 million more, the difference 6 years later. Okay, there were reductions made, not because they wanted to, it's because they had to. The economy went bad. The state crammed down and made cuts, okay? We went in there, reduced taxes and fees 260 times. We've heard folks, they're sick of taxes and fees. You can't be sick about everything that the state government's doing with Martin O'Malley and even the federal government with Barack Obama, and then your local government actually does something about it and produces the best bond ratings in the history of Frederick County. Read the bond rating reports if you're interested. Again, ranked as one of the best counties in America. I care very much about the school system, obviously. I used to teach in it. I'm a product of it. My kids are there. They go to Green Valley and Windsor Knolls. My whole entire family lives here. Everyone. We care very much about this community. I have a vision of prosperity, not a vision of scaring the dickens out of you about growth and development and developers and all these things. And you know, I agree we should do negative advertising. So leave my kids alone with your third-party groups and don't show flyers that are showing me getting paid off in a back alley. That is what's going out. So let's talk about truth. And I'm the only county that's paid, I'm the only candidate that's paid an impact fee that's sitting up here. And I've been born and raised and lived here my entire life. I'm about low unemployment, creating a business-friendly environment to make sure the businesses that we have can expand, can stay here, and we'll get those that relocate here. We need fields for our kids like we did with our first synthetic turf field over there at Ballinger Creek that we just named after former running back Chuck Foreman for the Minnesota Vikings. We need fields for those kids. My kids play in the Luya system. There's many athletic clubs and organizations across this county that we need to focus on. And we haven't given anything away to the developers. We've made them commit to $486 million. This PUD here, I believe, is coming up with over $66 million in the commitment with this DRA. We haven't let them off the hook. We've made them pay more than ever in any time in the history of Frederick County. And by the way, getting 8 school sites, 6 elementary, a middle school, a high school, 3 fire sites, a library, and also a park site. And I find it interesting, Monrovia Town Center, it's always controversial. The 2 candidates running there in that district both support it. Annette Breling spoke for it at the hearing, and Tony Smellick is for it when it was all age restricted. So it's this lightning rod, yet the 2 people that are elected there are going to run there were both in support of the project, and it was in the comp plan for decades. So thank you very much. My name's Blaine Young. I want to be your first county executive, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you both for coming.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out here tonight. We do show that this association does have a vote, and we need to get out on election day and vote.